We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The tidings we
喂，你好，我们知道，今年很艰难，但是我们希望，你们有个美好的，圣诞节。
We know this year has been hard, but we wish you a very Merry Christmas.
to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. For we all
Gajua Krishlinia.
For we all like figgy pudding. For we all like figgy pudding. So
அனைவருக்கும் இனிய கிறிஸ்மஸ் தின நல்வாழ்த்துக்கள். இறைவன் உங்கள் அனைவரையும் ஆசீர்வதிப்பாராக. ஆமென்.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Rekin Bozic.
Go until we get some. We won't go until we get some.
Yesu asiimwe abooluganda, abangereza inywena abali hano mu Bungereza n'abatali Bangereza abali mu Bungereza, munyikirize mbagondeze amazaalwa ga Yesu Kristu amarungi ahamu n'omwaka omuhyaka ogwo businge. Bye.
Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Noel.
Greetings we bring to you and your kin.
Chúc mừng Giáng sinh.
Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Mukama yebaza abooluganda, mbagaliza amazaalibwa ga Mukama waffe Yesu Kristo amalungi n'omwaka ogujja ogw'essanyu. Mukama abakuume.
Keresemese emunate.
I Krismesi emnandi.
Gesiende kerstfeest.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Feliz Navidad.
Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The tidings
Idoch Brecha.
to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Joël Noël.
Bring us some figgy pudding. Now bring us some figgy pudding. Now bring us some figgy pudding.
Hola, feliz Navidad.
The tidings we bring to you and your kin.
Clearly you.
Merry Christmas and a
Clearly you.
For we all like figgy pudding. For we
Had Molat Samech.
figgy pudding. For we all like figgy pudding. So bring it out here.
Afishiapa.
Things we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Fröhliche Weihnachten.
And your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry
Hello and welcome to this Havering Christian Fellowship's online Christmas carol service. Along with churches around the globe, we're doing things very differently this year. But one thing remains, it's when we celebrate the birth of Jesus and the hope that we have in him, not only at this time of year, but all year round. And so now, without further ado, let's sing our first carol.
O come, O ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. O come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare in room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. the world the Savior reigns. Let all their songs be poured, while fields and floods run tears and praise. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Unspeakable joy in overflowing well. No tongue can tell. Joy, unspeakable joy, it rises in my soul, never lets me go. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of His righteousness and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love, and wonders, wonders of His unspeakable joy, overflowing well, no tongue can tell. Joy, unspeakable joy, it rises in my soul, never lets me go. Rises in my soul, never lets me go. Rises in my soul, never lets me go.
Skipper, look. Analysis. It looks like a small incandescent bulb, designed to indicate something out of the ordinary, like a malfunction.
I find it pretty and somewhat hypnotic.
That too, sir. Right. Rico. Manual.
Problemo solved. Don't look dull. This might get hairy. Attention! This is your captain speaking. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is we'll be landing immediately. The bad news is we're crash landing. My goodness, doll, you're shaking like a leaf. Rico, you've had your fun. Pull up. Gear down. Gently now, you just want to kiss the ground. Just a little peck, a smooch like you're kissing your sister. I said kiss it. Now just a little break. Just a touch. A little whisper. Commence emergency landing procedure. Flaps up. Deploy.
Only 2 passengers unaccounted for, Skipper.
That's a number I can live with. Good landing, boys. Who says a penguin can't fly?
pressure. It's everywhere. The book of James offers understanding and wisdom for keeping pressure from ruining our lives and those around us. Join us in our upcoming study as we learn how to deal positively with the pressure points of life.
Calling all guys, qualities of a kingdom man. What other connect group can guarantee to put hairs on your chest? What other connect group can guarantee that by the end you'll be talking in a deep, husky, masculine voice like my good self? Yes, the last person to attend one of these groups, he began like this. And then after 6 weeks, this is how he looked. In all seriousness, if you would like to develop the qualities I believe God wants to instill in men within his church, qualities of strength, of courage, of devotion, of faithfulness, purity, honesty, and so many more. And you want as guys to come together so we can sharpen one another and examine these issues in an honest and an open way, in a safe environment, then this is the Connect group for you. Qualities of a kingdom man. Look forward to seeing you there. Bless you.
After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem, in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people, Israel." He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." Then Herod called the Magi secretly to him and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. In Bethlehem in Jewry, this blessed babe was born, and laid within a manger upon this blessed morn, to which the mother Mary did nothing take in scorn. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Fear not, then said the angel, let nothing you affright. This day is born a Saviour of a pure virgin bride, to free all those who trust in him from Satan's power and might. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of They found him in a manger where oxen feed on hay. His mother Mary kneeling down unto the Lord did pray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Now to the Lord sing praises, all you within this place, and with true love and brotherhood each other now embrace. This holy tide of Christmas all others doth deface. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. In the bleak midwinter, all creation groans for a world in darkness, frozen like a stone. Light is breaking in a stable for a throne, and he shall reign forevermore, forevermore, and he shall reign forevermore, forevermore. Unto us a child is born, the King of kings and Lord of lords, and he shall reign forevermore, forevermore. If I were a wise man, I would travel far. If I were a shepherd, I would do my part. But poor as I am, I will give to him my heart, and he shall reign forevermore, forevermore, and he
After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Matthew 2, verse 9 to 12.
And now, with very little expense, I'd like to hand over to Pete, Tiffany, Becky and Teresa for our Christmas production, Misplaced Hope.
'Twas the run-up to Christmas, and the Christmas spirit was definitely in the air. Shopping and sharing and socialising and all without a care. Friends that hadn't met in what felt like a lifetime. This was going to be good. But while two boasted of their success, was the other left misunderstood? Christmas, a time for love and laughter and to focus on the things that matter most. Reminding ourselves of the things we're thankful for and in where we place our hope.
Isabel! Oh, it's so nice to see you. It's been so long, hasn't it? Social distancing. Mwah, mwah. Here, Donna, I brought some wine for our table.
It's Donatella now, darling. You need a name that stands out in my industry.
Do they sell Chateau Lafite 87 here?
I don't think so. No, I didn't either. I always had you down as a house wine type of girl.
Thanks. So, what have you been up to these days?
Well, haven't you heard? I was chief fashion designer for Ralph Lauren. But you know, darling, that's far too unambitious for me. So I moved onwards and upwards. Haven't you heard?
Oh, cool. And how did you get into that?
Well, it's not what you know, it's who you know, isn't it, darling?
I suppose. Joe! Joe?
Oh, hi, sorry, I was just looking at pictures of me and Joe.
Joe? You was looking at pictures of you and yourself?
No, silly, me and Joe. We just got married.
Oh, wow. You got married? And he's got the same name as you?
How very idiosyncratic.
Idio what?
Peculiar, darling.
No, it's far from peculiar. Fate has brought us together.
Oh, give me a break.
Joe, so tell us about Joe.
Well, how long have you got? Well, he is just absolutely perfect. Well, actually, perfect doesn't begin to describe him. Imagine your dream man, but times a billion. That's Joe. Anyway, enough about me. Izzy, are you still dating that guy from sixth form? What was his name? Max? Mike?
Mark?
Yeah, the really annoying one.
He wasn't that bad.
I suppose he was alright. Kind of cute, I guess. Maybe more your level. Never really were successful enough.
Darlings, let me give you one piece of advice. When it comes to men, they just bleed you dry. They are a waste of energy. I don't have time for relationships.
Hello, honey. You didn't need to call me to tell me that. That so sweet. You know how much I hate taking out the bins, and for you to do that and call me, it's just another reason why I absolutely love you so much. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to go now because I'm just about to have lunch with the girls. Okay, no, you say it first. No, you say it first. Okay. Love you, Bunnykins. Okay, no, I'm definitely gonna go. I'm definitely gonna go now, okay? Okay. No, you hang up first. No, you hang up first. Okay, we'll do it on the count of 3. We'll do it together, okay? 1, 2, 3. Well, you didn't hang up either. Okay, I'm definitely gonna go now, okay? Okay, love you. Bye. Oh, sorry, that was Joe.
Of course it was. So, Izzy, what are you doing with yourself these days?
Well, actually, I'm very successful like you, Donna. Teller, I'm a customer experience enhancement consultant.
Oh, so you're a sales advisor then, darling?
Well, you could call it that, but it is a really important role. Anyway, what are you two doing for Christmas?
Sorry, darling, I have to take this. Hello, Donatella Designs. Kira Knightley. Oh, well, I've got Kate Blanchett on the 23rd and Jennifer Lawrence on the 24th, but I guess I could squeeze you in, darling, on Christmas Day. Yes, get your people to talk to my people. Okay, love to Kira now. Ciao, ciao. Oh, it's sorted. You don't get a day off in my industry.
Oh, that's a shame. What are you up to this Christmas, Joe?
Well, it's just me and Joe this year.
Yes, it is.
Making memories. Oh, I just couldn't imagine spending Christmas with anyone else. So, what about you, Izzy?
People would always ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And to tell you the truth, I never really knew. See, it's easy when you have a dream or a goal. All I remember being told was, reliance on anyone else but yourself is worthless, like putting all your weight on a chair, only for it to break. Climbing to the top would never be easy. I was very aware of that. But what seemed like an endless pursuit of defeat to others, to me was one step closer to being complete. If I could just get there, I would finally be. I would have the life I've always dreamed. Purpose, free of worry. Freedom from fear, from there never being enough money. That's why you have to keep going. There'll be a time of sacrifice, a time of unknowing. But I must push on, so that I may see a name that lights up the sky. A name to remember, that name is mine.
There were 2 people. Each set out to build their home. One built theirs on the rock. The other built theirs on the sand. But then the storm came.
It was like a fairy tale coming true, Joe and I. A damsel in distress, rescued by her knight in shining armour. The moment our eyes locked, it was like the world went on pause. And it was at that moment I realised this was far from a flick. This was love. Destiny. I found everything that I was searching for and dreaming for. Him. The rhythm of his heart beats like a drum inside my mind, reminding me that every waking moment is an opportunity for our love to shine. Life's labyrinth of adventures and pain is now nothing compared to the peace that I feel when I'm with him. He's always there to cheer me up, pick me up when I've fallen down, and repair the broken pieces of me. He sees past my problems, and I am more than convinced everything is going to be okay from now on. Because it's true, finding your soulmate actually completes you. I just sit there and dream of all the memories yet to come. Late nights, summer walks and picnics on spring afternoons. Growing old through the seasons, increasing in love. I knew from the moment that we met, right from the very start, that we were just made for each other and nothing could tear us apart.
There were two people. Each set out to build their home. One built theirs on rock. The other built theirs on sand. But then the storm came. For a time, all was well. Life was good. Business was buoyant. Hearts were entwined. The dream of happiness was security. The dream of success and fulfillment. A dream to keep me warm at night. A dream to light up those dark days. Hearts created to dream. Made in the image of God to explore, to discover. To create a future of possibilities. A future of certainties, a future of hope. But then the storm came. Black and white turns to grey. Certainty to uncertainties. Dreams begin to fade. Reality sets in. Realization. Has hope been misplaced? My words are true. When the storm comes, when the rain comes, when the floodwaters rise, when the wind beats mercilessly at the door of your house, will it stand? Is it built on rock? Or will it, like sand, slowly disappear, running between your fingers?
So, it's so great that we could meet up so soon. How was everyone's Christmas?
Yeah, it was alright. How was Kira, Donatella?
Oh, change of plan, darling. Kira was busy all day. You know how it is.
Oh, well, I'm sure you have plenty of stars lining up to use your services.
Not exactly, darling. It's a complicated business.
So, what did you actually do on Christmas Day then?
Oh, you know how it is, darling. A bottle of Chateau Lafite 87 kept me company. How about you, Joe? How's the love of your life?
Yeah, he's alright, and you know, Christmas was okay. Not exactly what I had in mind, but I just wish he wouldn't spend so much time on the PlayStation.
Oh, so he's not perfect then?
Well, we all have our faults, don't we?
Well, my Christmas was good. Thanks for asking.
Go on then, darling. Tell us about your Christmas.
Well, guess who I bumped into? Do you remember Paula from school?
Ugh, yes, darling.
Well, I bumped into her in the shops
and she was telling me about how she'd become a Christian.
Paula? What, the really naughty one? Always in trouble, never sat for a lesson?
Yeah, that Paula. Oh, so she's found the light then, has she? Next she'll be telling me that Jesus walked on water. No, honestly, she was telling me about how she'd changed to become a Christian. And honestly, she really is different. She invited me to her carol service at church, and you know I wasn't doing anything at Christmas, so I went along, and it's really got me thinking.
Well, if it takes you to walk into an ancient building to get you thinking, then there's no hope for the rest of us. As for me, I prefer not to think, and Chateau Lafitte 87 does a fine job in helping me with that. Thank you very much.
No, that is interesting. Wow, I remember Paula. To be honest, I never thought that would be her kind of thing. It's not really something I've ever thought about either.
Well, me either, but seeing how much she's changed, it's really got me thinking. And I might go along to another one, you know. You wanna come?
Yeah, couldn't hurt, I suppose. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. And all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through a prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us.
Good morning. Before I start, I just want to scotch some vicious rumours that appear to be circulating. That the conversation in that play between Jo and her husband Joe that you saw was actually taken, these are the rumours, that was taken verbatim, lifted verbatim from a conversation I had with my wife Kim. And I just want to say that's a vicious rumour and completely untrue. Kim does not call me Bunnykins, okay? It's Sweetie Pie, if you want to know. The rest of it, of course, is absolutely true. So, anyway, moving on swiftly. Are there times in your life when, you know, things don't go to plan? I think I know the answer to that question. Times when things don't go to plan. 2020 could be a whole year, which could come into that category, couldn't it? I remember a few years ago, Kim and I were travelling to the airport, Luton Airport, to go on a well-earned rest to Croatia in the Balkans for a holiday. And I booked one of the airport car parks, and this one was a bit cheaper than the rest, which I thought at the time was a great move. And we typed the postcode into the sat-nav. Oh, the Mr. Reliable sat-nav. The sat-nav that's so high-tech, it will never ever let you down. That, you know, you could just, you know, rely on with your life. That sat-nav, yes, exactly. So when we got to the exit, and at the roundabout it said right to the airport, and the sat-nav said left. Of course we went left. Not, you know, these car parks are some way from the airport, many of them. So, oh no, you know, we were happily kind of just driving along. It's a lovely summer's day, and we kind of come into the lovely rolling hills of Hertfordshire. Very, very pleasant. My suspicions were first aroused when a plane flew over our head, but it was about 6,000 feet above our head. And I said to Kim, that's come from the opposite direction, but it seems awfully high. That altitude, the airport must be some way from here. Oh, no, it's fine. Everything will be fine, Kim said. So anyway, then we got to the destination, according to the sat-nav, and I just had another, you know, few seeds of doubt, because as we pulled up at the destination, instead of looking at a airport car park, we were looking at a field of cows with a dead end. And you know, I've seen a few airport car parks in my time, and you know, some of them, you know, are a little bit rough and ready, but I've never seen one quite like this. So that's when panic started to set in. Kim said, don't worry, we can look on the phone, and we can get the address, and we'll find it, no problem, except there was no signal. So we had to drive here, there and everywhere looking for a signal. Now it's at times like this, at times of panic and crisis, that you do find out what people are like. So Kim, of course, you know, she was just calmness personified. You know, she was just peace personified. You know, she could have sung, "Oh, what a beautiful morning, oh, what a beautiful day, I've got a wonderful feeling, everything's going my way." She would have done that. And you know how it is as a Christian, maybe it's just me that feels this way, when someone is being so righteous and peaceful and calm in the midst of a storm, sometimes you just want to wring their necks. Or is that just me that feels that way? But I didn't. I restrained myself, kept my hands on the steering wheel. Of course, I was going to the other extreme. And there was me, and admittedly, I did think of a Bible verse. Absolutely. It was, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And I did think of a Bible character, David in the Psalms, when, you know, I could identify with David. "God, why have you abandoned me? Where are you?" I was beginning to doubt the existence of God himself. But anyway, to cut a long story short, we got to the car park eventually. We were well late by that time for our flight. You know, the flight had already gone. We got to the airport and I'm thinking, well, let's just go through the formalities, because maybe if we just look so pitiful, they might have pity on us and we might get a later flight or get a transfer flight. But this is probably just a futile venture now, and you know, all is lost and we're going to lose a lot of money. As it happened, the flight had been delayed. We got there and everyone was queuing up for the flight. We went through check-in, etc., and we were actually early for the flight because it had been so severely delayed, which we didn't know about. So at times like that, of course, being the guy that I am, humble, I thought I need to apologise to Kim for my behaviour and, you know, the way I spoke and this and that, you know, in the car. And then I thought, nah, I won't bother doing that. Pride overtook that. But, you know, maybe you've had situations similar to that, but think about the story of the nativity. Think about that, the birth of Christ and the events leading up to it. Think about the characters. Mary, I mean, she wasn't expecting to be pregnant with the Son of God, was she? Joseph was not expecting to have to explain to all his family, his friends and his neighbours that Mary was looking as fat as she was because she'd been at the pies and the cream cakes. The shepherds washing their socks or watching their flocks, depending on which version of the Bible you use, they weren't expecting myriads of angels to appear and heralding the birth of the Messiah. And the Magi, let's think about the Magi. Now the Magi, they were from Persia, Babylon, that kind of area. And they're variously described by commentators, you know, wise men, kings, magicians, astronomers, astrologers, dream interpreters, philosophers. You can take your pick. Maybe they're all of those things. Now it's most likely that they are actually priests of a religion called Zoroastrianism. Now there's a mouthful, and if I was going to start a religion, I would start it with a simpler name than Zoroastrianism, if I'm honest. But anyway, that's their background. Now they thought they'd just got to rock up in Jerusalem, having seen this star, and they were going to then meet the King of the Jews. But that wasn't what happened. It didn't go to plan. When they got there was no royal welcome. When they got there was no red carpet. In fact, no one knew where the king was or indeed who he was. Now we can skim over this story because we know how things work out, but think about, you know, the Magi and some of the other characters there as well. Think about the frustration, maybe the doubt, the confusion, the disappointment that they must have felt at the time. And you know, we can feel the same. I can speak about the frustration of not finding an airport car park, but there can be more significant things in life that don't go to plan. Unexpected sickness, a relationship that goes wrong, unemployment, redundancy, and any number of things, a career move that doesn't work out, any number of things that don't go to plan. Now making plans is not wrong. Making plans is good. You know, the Bible talks about us making plans. Proverbs 16 verse 3, for example, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And there's an old saying, isn't there? live every day as your last and plan every day as though you'll live forever. That's a good quote, a good saying. So making plans are good, they're okay. The problem is when we place our hope, when we place our joy, our purpose in those plans, independent of God. And the characters in the play that we saw, Donatella, darling, she dreamed of getting to the top. Her life revolved around her career and that insecurity. And when she got to the top, she wouldn't have to worry about money. She wouldn't have to worry about surviving, about needing to rely on anyone else. And then we have Giggly Joe. And all her hope was in her relationship with Mr. Perfect, her soulmate who would complete her, so she thought. But when our plans don't go to plan, that can leave us feeling frustrated, confused, and disappointed. It can leave us feeling those things about our circumstances, sometimes about ourselves, about other people, and also about God. And we can question at times like that, we can question God's goodness. We can question his power. We can question his very presence. When God doesn't conform to how we think things should work out. When prayers are apparently not answered, or not in the way that we would expect them to be answered. I became a Christian when I was 17, and a friend of mine who was instrumental in kind of introducing me to Christianity. He didn't lead me to the Lord, but he introduced me to the faith. After a couple of years, I was still kind of pressing on as a Christian. He was nowhere to be seen. He'd kind of got very disappointed and disillusioned with God and with Christianity because, he didn't think it was going to be that difficult. I remember him saying to me, I didn't think it was going to be this difficult. And he had this expectation that wasn't met. And he turned his back on God as a result. The wonderful thing, of course, about God is that he can handle that stuff. He can handle your pain. He can handle your frustration. He can handle your disappointment. And there's so many examples in the Bible of that. So Psalm 13, and this is again a Psalm of David, like I could have quoted in that car. How long, Lord? How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? If I was God, I'd kind of tend to leave those bits out of the Bible because they're a little bit embarrassing. It's not really a great sales pitch for faith, not a great sales pitch for God. Got people in the Bible crying out to God like that, and David's not the only one. But, God has this way, doesn't he, of as we bring our concerns to him, as we bring our doubts and our frustrations and our disappointments to him, he has this way of speaking into those situations, of breathing hope into us, of speaking a future and comfort into our lives. Even when we can't see a way, God can see a way and he can find a way. And, in that play, I sort of, the character I was playing, Jesus' character, spoke about this parable. And Jesus, we find this in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus spoke this parable about two men, the wise and the foolish builders refers to, or is referred to. About these two people who one built a house on rock and the other built their house on sand. And one of the aspects of that story, that parable, is that the storm, it comes against both houses. It doesn't just come against the house built on the sand. The test, the storm, comes against both houses. The one built on the rock and the one built on the sand. And there are many reasons why we have the Bible. One of those, it's not just
simply to tell us the story of God's dealings with humankind, or the story about how Jesus came to earth to save us, etc. But it's about God, revealing God's heart, revealing His intentions for people, and also the promises of God. The Bible is full of those wonderful promises that stand even when things don't go to plan in our lives. And the Magi, they had a plan, but it wasn't just based on a whim and a fancy. They had a promise. These Magi, you would have been aware of some of the prophecies about the Messiah in the Old Testament. They were learned people. And they came from the region, the same turf that Daniel came from, Babylon, Persia, that area. And they would have been aware of prophetic words in Daniel, in particular. Daniel 7, for example, talks about the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, and has been given authority, glory and sovereign power, and all nations and peoples will worship him. They would have been aware of that stuff. And other Old Testament prophecies. And Old Testament prophecies, remarkable, really, concerning Jesus, over 300 of them in the Old Testament. And there was a study done in the last century by a guy called Professor Peter Stoner. And I believe he was a mathematician. And around 600 students, they worked out the probability of Jesus just fulfilling 8 of those 300 prophecies. And you know what it worked out at? Okay, well, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. 10 to the power of 17. And if you don't know what 10 to the power of 17 looks like, then this is what it looks like. Now, it might come out back to front on the screen, I'm not sure, but there you go, 10 and 17 zeros. That's 10 to the power of 17. And it's been described like this. If you were to cover the UK with 2p coins 6 feet deep, right across the UK, and you had one coin, just one coin marked on one side, and you drop that randomly, and then someone was kind of parachuted in, blindfolded, and was just literally dropped kind of randomly somewhere, the chances of them picking up that marked coin, that's marked on one side, the chances are similar or same probability, 10 to the power of 17. And they also worked out that to fulfill 48 of these 300 or so prophecies would be one in a trillion, 13 trillions. That's incredibly unlikely, in terms of probability. Or about the same chance as West Ham winning the Premier League. That kind of, probability factor. And the fact is, that if God could orchestrate things so that Jesus would fulfill those 300 prophecies, how much more will he ensure that his promises are fulfilled in your life? How much more? Jesus fulfills all the Old Testament prophecies, but more than that, he embodies the promises of God. Jesus is the promise of God. He's the promise of salvation. He's the promise of life to the full. He's the promise of acceptance, of being right with God, the promise of joy and peace, the promise of God's presence. Jesus is that promise. And I believe that, this is the message of the Bible. The message of the Bible is that the promises of God for your life, are not subject to the kind of variances of life. They cannot be undermined. Ultimately, God will have his way. They cannot be undermined by sickness. They cannot be undermined by stuff that's done to you, by your circumstances. They can't be undermined by the plans of other people, the stuff that's spoken over your life. They can't be undermined by your mistakes and failures. They can't be undermined by your past
by your upbringing, etc. And in the parable that we call the parable of the wise and the foolish builder, you know, Jesus says, everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who builds his house on the rock. And as you know, you and I look ahead to 2021, you know, what foundation is your life going to be built on? And beyond that, what foundation is your life going to be built on in the future? You see, you know, I believe that the storm that Jesus talks about that hits the house on the rock and hits the house on the sand I don't think this is the perfect storm. I don't believe this is just a one-off kind of storm that kind of just happens once in a lifetime, is potential to knock your house down completely. I believe it's talking about the unpredictabilities and changes of life. Because none of us know what tomorrow is going to bring. 2020 has taught us that, if nothing else. I believe that many generations, if not every generation, goes through a similar experience. For us, it's COVID. For other generations, it's been war, or it's been some other hardship, something that God uses. Because I certainly don't believe God sends these things, but he uses them to show us the fragility of life. And when changes come, when these changes in life come, you know, when your life goes left, when, you know, you expect it to go right, when it goes down, when you expect it to go up, what is your hope built on? You know, like the characters in the play, you know, just hoping that things are going to work out for the best, things are going to go well, hoping that your career move is going to pay off, hoping that the economy is going to pick up or stay strong, hoping that others are going to recognize that your talent, ability and promote you, hoping that your partner's going to stay with you and faithful to you and the relationship's going to work out, hoping that the COVID vaccine is going to be effective, hoping you're going to stay fit and well and healthy. None of those things are wrong. I hope for all those things, for you as well as for myself, but I recognize that ultimately, those things are sand compared to the rock of Christ and the rock of his word. And coming back to the nativity story, a Christmas story, Isaiah's prophecy to us, a child is born, a son is given, his name will be called Emmanuel, God with us. And he promises to be with us, to be with you, whatever life will throw at you, whatever life will throw at me. And maybe you're, you know, someone who, you know, you have turned away from God. Maybe, you know, you've become disappointed and frustrated because things haven't worked out as you planned. And you've turned your back on God. Now's a moment of time for you to reconnect with him. Maybe you're someone who's been in church for a long time and it's what you do, it's what you've been brought up to believe, and you just do it. You've never really put your trust in Jesus and built your life on the rock of him and his word. Maybe you're someone who just doesn't know, has never known Jesus as your Lord and Saviour. But 2020 has taught you that actually life can throw things at you. You're not prepared for them. And the foundation of your life is what you're questioning right now. And now's that moment in time for you to make that step of commitment. I'm going to pray now to finish this message. And I would just like you to join with me in as I pray for you. Whatever your situation or circumstances, I would like to pray. So let's pray, shall we? Father, I thank you that for this wonderful parable of the man who built his house on the rock and the one who built his house on the sand. You don't promise to insulate us from problems, but what you do promise is to be with us in the midst of those difficulties and problems. You promise in the midst of that we will know joy and peace, we will know abundant life, we will know salvation, we will know fulfillment,
as we place our trust in you, as we hear your words and put them into practice. Everything else is shifting sand. And I pray for those people tuning in, listening in, whatever their circumstances are, wherever their hearts are at, whether they're far from you, whether they've never trusted in you, whether they have just grown distant from you, whether they, people just have put their trust and their hope in things other than yourself. Put their trust in relationships or in career or in job security or in family, whatever it might be, but ultimately, that can be misplaced hope. And Lord, I pray, Father, that right now you will extend grace to them and speak into those hearts and minds. Reveal to them, as only you can do, your love for them, to draw them into relationship with you. And I pray this in Jesus' mighty name.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of the dear Saviour's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine. Oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night, oh, holy light, oh, night divine. Truly he taught us to love one another. His glorious love and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all the pressure shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, that all within us praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord. All praise
Wow, what an amazing time we've had together. Just a reminder that this evening, that's Sunday, December the 20th, obviously if you're watching this Monday morning it won't count, we're having our quiz evening, and that's via Zoom. It's 7 o'clock for a 7:30 start. I think that half an hour is kind of to work out if we're muted or unmuted. Who said those words before 2020? Also, on Christmas Day at 11 a.m, we have a Christmas Day meeting, and that is also via Zoom. The details were sent out on the weekly newsletter, but if you need any information, please do visit our rather fabulous new website, haveringchristianfellowship.org. And so now, all that remains is for me to say, however you're celebrating Christmas this year, I do hope you have a happy, peaceful and blessed time. See you soon.